In the wake of the coronavirus crisis, the fiscal bonanza from Congress and stimulative monetary policy from the Federal Reserve have a lot of people wondering about inflation. With all of this government spending, the stimulus checks, PPP loans, enhanced unemployment insurance, low interest rates, and the money printer going wild, we must be facing a huge risk of inflation, right? Well, not so fast. The answer might not be so simple. I'm a vice president at Altamont Capital Partners, a private equity fund based in the Bay Area, and I'm on a mission to demystify the world of finance with storytelling. I tend to think that the simplest way to talk about inflation and deflation is to use the analogy of a balloon. Imagine the economy as a big balloon. In March, you had a massive shock that put a tear in that balloon. People weren't spending money because they were stuck inside. So naturally, the balloon began to deflate. The Fed, Congress, and policymakers all saw this and started frantically pumping in air to fill it back up. But why? Well, central banks traditionally follow Keynesian economic principles, which says that spending is the holy grail of economic growth and what everyone should strive for. Inflation incentivizes spending because your dollars in the future are worth less than they are today. You're incentivized to spend, not save. Deflation to them means that our debts that we have incurred over many years become unmanageable. Defaults occur, and a vicious cycle of deleveraging may ensue. So they do everything they can to avoid this. This means pumping air back in, hence the stimulative monetary policy, low interest rates, quantitative easing, and the like, as well as the fiscal bonanza from Congress. So what comes next? What are the risks of all of this? Are we likely to see rampant inflation? First off, let me just say that there are no easy answers to this question. Put simply, deflation just means that the purchasing power of your dollar is increasing over time. Inflation is the opposite of that. The purchasing power of your dollar goes down. Stagflation is a unique one in that it is an environment where you have inflation alongside higher unemployment and lack of wage growth. The risk today is much more around deflation versus inflation. You have an environment where banks are actually tightening their lending standards, not loosening them. If deflation is completely intolerable for the Fed and Congress, they will do more and more to avoid it, which, if unchecked, could flip you into an environment of higher inflation very quickly. If we remain in an environment of record-breaking deficit spending alongside zero interest rates, it is certainly one possible outcome here that we would see a world of rising inflation and high unemployment, the dreaded stagflation that plagued the US in the 1970s after the oil crisis of 1973. With the recent Fed announcement on its shift in policy, namely that they will wait to see inflation rather than taking preemptive actions to head it off, market observers would be wise to keep an eye on this space. The Fed has a target inflation rate of about 2%. So the fear is that you all of a sudden hit an environment where inflation far exceeds that target rate. You start seeing the inflation rates that you hear about of hyperinflation in Weimar Germany post-World War I, or Zimbabwe or Venezuela. The risk of hyperinflation in the United States is actually quite low. We are the global reserve currency. People need dollars around the world in order to settle their transactions. So our risk of hyperinflation is actually quite muted.
Invest in you. Ready, set, grow. CNBC and Acorns.